Why is the audio is disabled? I didn't disable the audio. Let's see if we can't get this together. Oh, excuse me. Oh, da, 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 da. Oh, okay. I think now I got it. So this is, this goes, that's crazy. Hmm. All right, well, we'll go this route. All right, do, do, do. It's funny because I was looking. Okay, so why is that? All right, there we go. There we go. What's going on, y'all? What's happening? What's popping? Welcome to another episode of Side Spot Live. I am your host, as always, Sabir Alim. Yeah, yeah. One time, you only get one, right? This is not something that, little girl, don't get it, right? And that's what I tell people about relationships. Like, going back and forth in this relationship, we broke up today. And when we break up today, we go and do something we've always wanted to do. Go do somebody we always wanted to do, and see the chaos already going on, and then you go and take this little sabbatical from each other and go do these things, and then come back and think it's going to be better when you just added another layer to the insanity that you were already in with that person. What kind of sense does that make? None at all. It makes none, none. Makes no sense. But so many of us do. We go back and forth because the shot wasn't the issue in so many cases. Because if it was a bad shot, y'all probably wouldn't be together anyway. Right? But the shot is what got you together. But the shot ain't gonna keep it. The shot ain't gonna keep it. It's not. But you keep it. So I made a decision that I was going to let TikTok go. Yeah, gotta go, gotta go. Let me get this uh, banner up. It's in my face. It's in my consciousness of mind. So it's a matter of uh, I I mean this is it's still one play. You still want to play? Yeah, it's just from this way. It's the boy who waits you wanted to play. Conscious of mind on the screen. Let's play. I want love. No more. I'm getting ready to read this song. It's funny. It popped up like that. Right? Because you see this slow tempo. So I'm getting ready to do a remix of it at a fast tempo. Ready to be the God, mankind, just a man. It's a friend. We're talking about that today. It's not a mind. Oh, y'all didn't think I did that? Oh, yeah, I did that background. Now, five. was right for you, it matters. But in the end, there's this word, just about it. I know no way you just putting it over and over. That command, talk about that today. Consciousness of mind. If not, that was like the weirdest thing that happened with the song jump, but I'm good with it. It was timely. It was timely. Just like a lot of things are in life that we kind of overlook, man. It was like some would see that as just a damn mistake. Most things that happen are happening for you, not to you. And until that thinking begins to change, where it's like it's always poor me, woe is me, I'm the victim, and all these other negative attachments to living, you won't be able to enjoy life. I'm telling you, man, you won't. And then you really don't understand why you do the things that you do. But going back to what I was saying before the interruption, I made the decision to move on from TikTok because the relationship is just not a good one. Uh, I was hit for violations, intermittent hits. It wasn't like it was a whole lot of, but it was enough that made me wonder what was actually going on. And understanding that control of TikTok has changed hands, but the same shenanigans exist. And that's something that you'll find in a lot of business, especially when it comes to nonprofit organizations, when it comes to uh, different initiatives that happen. The same people are typically a part of those initiatives. So there's really no change. You have the same voices, you have the same think tanks. You don't have anything different. You don't have anything different. You have the same thing. So I got hit with a couple of times over a period of time with so-called community violations. It's like being at the airport and seeing your friend Jack. Hi, Jack. Oops, you get tackled. Things like that. But when you have people shaking their behinds with their children all around them, camel toe pronounced, all there and everything, toting on the weed, beating somebody's ass, acts of violence and things like that happen. That's not a violation of the community guideline. Somebody making threats against an elected official online, you can't say anything about their behavior because then you're attacking a community member. But a community member talking about waging an assault upon an elected official, that's okay. Don't call them crazy. Don't call them stupid. Don't call them out of pocket. Don't call them anything. Matter of fact, don't call them. But those things are permitted. And listen, in my life, I've never been that kind of person. Never been that kind of person. So for somebody to even allude to such an action. But I see this. I applied for a business account. Same credentials that they required for a seller's account, I provided. Yeah. My LLC stuff, the stuff from the IRS, all of that they needed. Picture of the license, front, back, dripped some blood on it and scanned it over to them. All of that. They denied me for the seller's account, but approved me for the business account. Told me that the last thing they told me was that I'm something, some violations of previous accounts because it seems like you got this, that, and no, I don't. I just started my LLC in 24. I've had the same accounts since that time and years prior to that. I haven't had another account, and I never had any kind of violations. I tell them that in this chat because you can't talk to people anymore, and you get this automated response, and that's the world we've come to. People won't be talking to people. People will be talking to who they think are people. But anywho, they denied me being able to have a seller's account. So I have, a couple hundred followers on there, but I had to tell folks, and I've been telling the folks over the past few weeks, they're like, hey, listen, this has been my relationship with TikTok. Don't know why. Don't care why. I don't care why. If I'm not contributing to the problem, I don't care. I don't have to care. This relationship is not about me caring about you as a business person. Conduct your business according to what's written, period. They failed to do that. Failed to even take a look at, well, wait a minute, but none of this is legitimate. You're telling me this, but you provided me with nothing. You don't even have any receipts to say, oh, well, this account here was terminated because of this. But you don't have any of that. And this is consistent. It's consistent. Nobody's really looking into anything. Now, I just went through a similar thing with some other platforms that selling merchandise on. And I know my contribution was over enthusiasm, not ill intent, malicious intent. I started Daddy's Right Here nonprofit. I opened up some accounts because I wanted to start putting things in place. I always put the cart before the horse. Okay, that's what I do. When I'm on it, I'm doing it. I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. Listen, if I do it wrong, correct me, fix it. But all the extra stuff that the accusations and alluding, you just don't do that in business. You don't do that in business. You don't do that in business. But you do that in business. Because when you have people who bypass policy and procedure, all in the name of protecting themselves, all in the name of we're not going to be wrong, this is the end result. Because, we have millions of people who are on TikTok. I got it. I get it. I'm done. You don't have to miss me. I'm not asking you to miss me. I'm just letting you know where I stand, and I'm going to stand on that. I'm going to stand on that. And that's what this is about. It's about standing on stuff. So I took ownership for like the fact that I had like 3 Pinterest accounts. So here I am in another business, in another aspect of business. This is a for-profit business. It's an LLC. So I'm getting signed up for the same platforms that I'm already on, not knowing that. Well, stay with the same platform, go to your original, stay with that, and make the changes. I don't think about things like that. I think that Elaine for you needs to have this platform, so I'm gonna get it. Not knowing the problems that it was causing as I begin to grow in the business. I still haven't made any money yet, but I'm making progress in terms of knowledge, understanding, seeing how things work, seeing cause and effect of things, understanding how you'll get burned. You got people out there that just that's what they do. They just listen. You got people out there, man, who are just dirt. They're just dirt. You have people like I've gotten people, man, that falsify, a look of they're Shopify, but they're really not Shopify, but they fraudulently put things together, make you believe that they're a Shopify expert. So they use Shopify, they use their stuff, they put their little logos and stuff down there, and they're not legitimately Shopify experts, right? Or they talk the whole lengthy, layout. People just sit around and just find all kind of ways to burn you. Okay, hey, listen, I've been burnt before. It's not the first time. It's not going to be the last time. But you begin to see things as they really are. You begin to see things as they really are. And that's why I really appreciate Shopify so much, because, all this time that I'm working in there, working feverishly and putting out funds to have this and that done. And then, I find out, well, AI is right there to help you with everything that you need to have done. Listen, little girl, last warning, you're going to go upstairs because what you're doing is interruptive. So why don't you go ahead upstairs and play and watch TV, and I'll let you know when I'm done. Oh, why isn't it on? I didn't turn it off, did I? You have to go upstairs and see. But that's where you need to go. Go upstairs and let me know if it's on or not. Go. Now. Okay. And let me know if it's on. And if it's not, I'll come up there and turn it on. Come on, let's go. Let's move. Thank you. So you have to kind of look at, you're going to get jerked around. You're going to get burnt. People, listen, no, I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. I've done business for years. And one of the things I've never sought to do was burn people. Yeah, never sought to burn anybody. Never sought to give anybody a product in any capacity. Even when I was in the pharmaceutical industry, never sought to burn people. Is it on? Y'all want to give me a minute. I'm going to put some music on for you while I run upstairs and help the little one out so she can get her little thing going on, because she's distracting. I'll be back in a minute. All right, all right, all right. The interruption, but I had to get to it, but man, being distracted by little ends, I have to make sure I take care. Yeah, so um, in looking at every relationship that I have, I focus my change process and maintaining of my mental health about these kinds of things. See, if I have to do business with you in any capacity and not have to be stressed out while trying to do what I need to get done, and you're either resistant, um, slow in responding, or non-responding, uh, not taking ownership or role that you have in a particular situation to help me do better, because that's what I'm always striving to do. I don't need to be a part of that relationship. I don't. And I just move on. I just move on. And I learned that from the marriages throughout the years of how me being, first of all, my issue of being an enabler. I'm a very accommodating. I have a lot of patience when it comes to understanding that people have to make certain adjustments in your life. You're in a relationship with somebody else. You have to make some adjustments. You have to begin to see that, like, oh, I can't do this. And you have to take responsibility and not do it. Like, don't lie to me. Don't manipulate into a situation where you really have no intention on any doing anything better or being better today than you were yesterday. If that's not your agenda, then we're not going to grow, and I'm going to roll out because I don't do the back and forth stuff. I confront everything that is worthy of confronting, and that's another thing that's important too to understand what's what's confrontational worthy. And we're not talking about, not making the bed up, not straightening up the living room, putting the toilet paper forward, not that. What's up? Things that are relevant to the growth and development of the relationship. If I ask you to not speak to me in that manner, I expect you not to speak to me in that manner. Not reference past issues that you had to contend with and think that I should contend with because I'm not going to. I don't have to. That's your responsibility. So, I'm good with all those kind of things. But when you repeatedly do those things, what are you doing? So you're really not going in the same direction. TikTok it's just a matter of, man, y'all say one thing and then y'all do something else. There's cognitive dissonance everywhere. These are machines making these decisions now. Nobody calls it, okay, yeah, oh yeah, I understand. So no longer look for empathy when doing business. It doesn't exist. Empathy doesn't exist in most businesses today. If you're not having face to face, there's no empathy. If you're not having an understanding of the policy and procedure that you're responsible to represent in business, move on. Most people today can't adequately answer a question, let alone be empathetic with you about the circumstance because they don't want to go to the boss. They don't want to go tell the boss, listen, this is legitimate. What can we know? All of that is going, man. All of that is going. It's going down the rabbit hole rapid. People don't care. As long as I'm getting mine, that's why I'm here. I'm here to get mine. All this other stuff, they can finish your battles, man, or move on. That's all you have to do. So when we're talking about the consciousness, of an individual. We're talking about an awareness that you must have to survive this life, mentally survive. Most people do pretty damn good physically survive. But when it comes to mentally survive, that's where it all falls apart. It all falls apart. For those of you who don't know, I am Freudian. Sigmund Freud and I are friends in the spiritual realm. Yeah. And that relationship is just as important as the physical realm because I have embedded personal growth and development, according to Sigmund Freud, so deeply within the confines of my soul that I can apply it to my life. I can see things happening. I can see things happening because I understand that only I am responsible for my living, not another person. Then there's Carl Jung. Then there's Ellis and Beck. That's my circle of resource. That's where my direction comes from on that end. The foundation of living as required in regards to the spiritual side from years of practice of Islam, an understanding of the Old Testament, New Testament, Torah, the Quran, having all these understandings of mankind's condition. And not just what I see, what has been removed from. Because you got to pay attention to all these things too. You can't act like the stories about what's missing from these books. It's just conspiracy. If you do believe it's just conspiracy, then you're not even reading the book in the form that you have it. Because it's telling you about mankind's condition. You're reading and you know there's things missing and you won't question it. And when somebody tells you, oh, well, here's the other 4,096 pages from that they removed. Who's they? Why did they remove it? But you have people who are that powerful who can just dissect and dismantle and desecrate content, historical content, all in an effort to control the man. And here you keep looking like it's Donald Trump. This is beyond this is beyond any politician. You know? This is beyond all of us in terms of conceptualize what goes on in this life and how you have been conditioned to believe you have no damn power. Like you have no power. And you walk around, you act like you have no power. You're blaming conditions that you have authority over. You're blaming it on somebody else. This is what it is. But you are what you are, and you don't know what you are. And because you don't understand the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious, which they call the subconscious, the preconscious, because you knew, but you're just acting. It's it's been not misplaced, but displaced because of a displeasure, of a discomfort, of a dis-ease within yourself, within your mind, that if left alone could possibly have you jumping off a bridge because you can't take it. That's how powerful the mind is. The mind is so powerful that it can manufacture additional pain, physical pain, mental pain, spiritual pain. It can manufacture itself. That's how powerful the mind is. But it can also protect, and you don't know that because you still are being black, white, Asian, Greek, Christian. You're still being all of these things. And you think that that's being you're not being a human being. That is all of your humanity, which is that's in your preconscious. You just don't remember. You don't remember the womb, what it was like inside of the womb, that whole experience in the womb. Because no sooner than you come out of the womb, you're being inundated with directives about how you're going to live in this life. And nobody's teaching you about the humanity and the control that you have over most of what happens in your life. Nobody's teaching you. You come up and you're groomed, supposedly, assumedly, to make it in this life when you don't even know anything about what you are. The power that you truly have, that you possess as a human being. So these are things that you experience where somebody around you has taken and suppressed it so they could oppress you and use you in the capacity that this world, this is a man's world. This is a man's world. We're gods in a man's world. None of us are worthy of worship. There's but one worthy of worship. It ain't none of us. But so many of us have put ourselves in the position because we understand our humanity. We understand what we can do. We understand that spirit that resides within us is not all good. We understand the demonic part of that spirit that resides within us. See, when you understand that you retain both powers, ain't no devil running around with, ain't nothing running around with a little tail and all this. Ain't no place called hell. Hell is a condition that you experience within. You take yourself through it because you are you are yielding to that power in the wrong way. Why do you think no weapon formed against you can take you down? You have to understand. You just say you don't understand, and it will when presented because you don't understand yourself. Because you don't understand yourself. I'm never in. I'm never in. The physical being that you see before you, okay, it expires. You know, it expires, but not what resides within me. What resides within me comes out of here, goes to its next destination. Power within growth. Each host my spirit goes to begins to understand more and more. Now, just imagine if everybody thought the way I'm thinking and the way I'm talking. Can you imagine what this world would be like? No, life is Not only do you see certain garments come back, Afro come back, platform shoes, big hoop earrings, Pumas, sneakers and stuff like that. Everything comes back, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. What you need to find out, you need to understand that this civilization is just that. There's civilizations that preceded this. What preceded this civilization still exists. It still exists. You just have to think and read to understand the Watchers, the Giants, Nephilim, Anunnaki, whatever it is but you're not really reading and understanding what we are. You're too busy trying to be African in America when you're in America. You're too busy telling somebody that this is their ancestry. This goes beyond. See, that's how small-minded this civilization has become. And it's intentional. By everything that's put before us, we get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. The fear is the thing changes. You begin to get an understanding of what you really are. The interaction between the others. No alien to the human being doesn't mean that it doesn't exist within you. It's alien to the human being because it's part of the unconscious itself. Article, Simply Psychology, put this article out. Freud's theory of the unconscious mind. Article The article was written by Saul McLeod, PhD. The article was updated on January 25th, 2024. Sigmund Freud didn't exactly invent the idea of conscious versus unconscious mind, but he certainly was responsible for making it happen. And this was one of his main contributions to psychology. Freud developed a topographical model of the mind, describing the features of the mind's structure and function. Now, this is 1900, 1905. So he developed a topographical model of the mind, describing the features of the mind's structure and the mind's function. Okay? See, you really have to know these things and understand these things if you're going to rise to another level of consciousness as a human being. Not as a black man, not as a white man, not as an Asian man, and so on and so forth. To rise in consciousness. The more you rise in consciousness, the further you go into your power. Knowledge is everything. Knowledge of self is everything. Knowledge of what resides within you is, listen to what I'm telling you. You can't rise to any level of consciousness of God until you rise to the consciousness Most people can't get to that point. Most people understand that this whole life is a farce. That's as far as you're going to get. Most people are beginning to see that you've been lied to. Most people beginning to see that none of this stuff that they're telling us is legit. That there's always something that they're not telling us. There's always something happening that they cause a diversion away from, so we won't come to understand more why this is happening. You think it's about war, it's about strategic planning. It's about something that's going to be 5, 10 years from now, sometimes less, depending on how aggressive they want to be. But what you see happening today has nothing to do with tomorrow. It has to do with a future plan for mankind. Freud used the analogy of an iceberg to describe the three levels of the mind: conscious, pre-conscious, and unconscious. We're going to talk about those three today. So let's talk about this iceberg theory. Freud's iceberg theory, metaphorically, represents the mind's three levels: the conscious, which is the visible tip of the iceberg. I want you to have the iceberg in your mind. The visible tip of the iceberg. You know, icebergs are really, 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 really long. Just think, the bigger the tip of the iceberg that you see, how much is actually below the water. That which sits above the water is exposed to everything. And these are all the things that we get presented with in life because they're the ones in plain view. Life is not about what's in plain view. Life is about what's underneath the water. The things that you're not seeing, the things that they're hiding from you, the things that your own self is hiding from you to protect you. Then the other part is the God consciousness. So when we do the id, the ego, and the super ego is your morality. That's that stuff that's far under the water. That's that unconscious part. That's the part that you need to tap into, and that's the part that they're keeping us from tapping into. Because when you know, you know. This ain't conspiracy. Do the research yourself. I'm trying to help. So let's go. Okay. So the tip of the iceberg, the pre-conscious, is just below the surface. So if I break it down to the human being, this is the iceberg. This is the tip of the iceberg. This is all the stuff that's going on, all the stuff you think you know, all the stuff you think you want to know, all the stuff you're doing, you're planning to do, yada, 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 because of what you see around you. The pre-conscious is just below the surface. Just below the surface. Right? That's the pre-conscious. That's the ego. That's the part of self that battles, yeah, that holy war that goes on inside. See, you got to first see yourself as a holy existence. You have to see yourself, you don't have to. But as a human being, you are holy in existence, holy in nature, and holy ain't all giggles and laughs. There's a viciousness, a ruthlessness that comes along with that to deal with humanity when when you understand humanity's condition. One and the same. Then you have the unconsciousness, the vast submerged portion. This is the part that don't allow for any wiggle room. But because you're not all of the superego, you have the other to deal with. The ego, the id, wants to do what it wants to do, and it wants to do it now. Plain and simple. That's the part that many people are stuck at and never get to the other part and understand. You hear the term egotistical. Well, you really got to think about the term egotistical. If the id is the part of something that wants what it wants it now, and doesn't have any empathy, doesn't have any sympathy, doesn't have any respect, consideration, none of that exists. I want what I want. The ego is the part that says, well, hold up, Sabir, hold up. There are other people involved. The super ego gives the ego the information on why I need to think about other people. That's the part that you expose less of. But the ego tells the id, hey, hold up, man. You want to hurt our feelings if you say. You need to know that. The other part of the mind, see, this is all up in the id, remembers what you did before. Right? See, this is what the ego has to contend with. What you did before, the unresolved, the baggage that you carry around with you. Stay with it. It sounds real complicated, but if you just understand the concept, you can do the research and study along the way and figure this thing out. That's why you have to understand the iceberg theory. Because you don't see everything. And it's so much happening that you're not taking the time to look for it either. And you think you're fighting with people outside of you when you're actually fighting inside of yourself. You're fighting with yourself. Because your morality, what you stand on in terms of real values and beliefs, and you see that with your most loved relationship. You see that part of stuff. You see that part of stuff. Your real ride or die. Bring that out in you. But you know, if your life is not filled with a whole lot of ride or dies, then the battle will be even more excruciating. That's when suffering. See, pain is inevitable. Suffering is an option. And that suffering happens because of you, not because of the other person. We need you to understand that. All right, let's go back to the article. Freud described the conscious mind, this is 1915, which consists of all the mental processes of which we are aware. That's the conscious mind. Of all the mental processes of which we are aware. And this is seen as the tip of the iceberg. For example, you may be feeling thirsty at this moment and decide to get a drink. Got it? That's the conscious mind. That's the conscious mind. My daughter was was playing a little louder and distracting me. I had to stop. You already tried this with your Now, I said it's not the first time I tried it. So for me to not do anything about it, they were an opportunity. Okay, she's playing. Okay, she doesn't focus. Okay, go back upstairs, watch TV, and try to get unemployed. Right? That's the easy stuff, and that's what I mean by how you address life and look at things in life. Your responsiveness to things that happen in life are based on what you know. You go outside, you see it's a little cloudy. You go outside, you look. What you gonna do? You get an. It's raining now. So you get a rain check. Depends on how far you got to get out and move the car. Once you get out, if you need to get that determines what you actually know. But that's the conscious mind. Well, I'm just going out the house, right to the driveway in the car. I don't need a wet check, a wet proof check. Understand? I'm jumping out of the car, going right inside. So I'm not going to be out and about where I really need, but that's your thinking. My thinking makes it not. It's raining. Any wetness can cause me to get sick. But that's the consciousness of mind. Somebody raised their voice at me. If it's a woman, I respond in a particular way. If it's a man, I respond in a particular way. Wow. The awareness of the environment is that I grew up a particular way, woman dominated environment. I deal with certain things different. I feel them different. With the man, yo, dude, you seem like you're trying to, we're going to shut this down real quick. Right? I know the outcome of certain responses to things, regardless of who the person is. I know that a negative response back is going to elevate a situation that's already presented as being aggressive or passive aggressive, but it's already presented and already treated something in me. Now the question is, what is it going to trigger? My consciousness, my pre-consciousness based on here, or my subconscious, which is my super ego, my unconscious, which is my super ego. Which one is going to respond? And if you can't get your mind right under the water, it's never going to be anything positive about it, because that's where the fight is. You're always fighting above water. Stop fighting above the water. But you have to learn that. You have to learn that. You have to learn to stop fighting. When you can't swim, you ain't trying to go underwater. I can't swim. So the thought of underwater gives me anxiety. In my mind's eye, because I had that fear. I go deep fish and all that kind of stuff like that, but I don't play with water. But that's in my mind's eye. When I get beneath that water, in regards to Freud's structured theory of the iceberg, when I get below that water, that's where the freedom starts coming in. When your mind is riddled with blame, uh, self-loathing, the victim mentality, things of that nature, you're always above water. You're always above water. You'll never understand. So let's go to the pre-conscious mind. I want to get through all three of these. The pre-conscious contains thoughts and feelings that a person is not currently aware of, but which can easily be brought to consciousness. This is Freud 1924. It exists just below the level of consciousness before the unconscious mind. Now you keep hearing just below, and how just below is where your pre-conscious is, which I call the subconscious. Freud referred to it as the pre-conscious mind. I refer to it as the subconscious mind. There's the conscious, which is above water, and there's the subconscious, which is just below water. So if it's just below water, And before the unconscious mind, there's a lot that we don't know about ourselves. The id, the ego, and the superego. The preconscious part are things that we have learned to manage. That's why I said it contains thoughts and feelings that a person is not currently aware of, but which can be easily brought to consciousness because of the body, the human body protecting itself. Like if you've ever been faced with a near-death experience, life seems to fade out. The moment fades out, it just seems to fade out. It's like when I was getting ready to hit the guardrail, when my car went off the highway, I turned my car towards the rail in an effort to stop the vehicle because everything was just happening so quickly. I knew that there were 4 lanes of traffic to my left, and I did not want to get near. So I turned my car towards the rail, not thinking, take your foot off the gas. The car was out of control because it was just swerving back and forth, and I just surrendered in that moment. I'm going to turn towards the rail so these other cars don't hit me. When I made that decision, whatever happens inside of the human being happened. Everything just it just faded out. I'm sitting there watching. I turned my car. The decision was made. The body did it. The body does. And it just next thing I know, when it came to real time, my car was um, sliding upside down in the creek. Water was coming in. My consciousness kicked in about what was happening. I went from being unconscious into the subconscious, right to consciousness. My car was hitting everything. My car ended up in a tree about maybe like 15 feet off the ground. Then one part was in the tree, another part was on the cyclone fence built inside the house. I forget what exit is, but it's the exit when you're coming out of Delaware, out of Westchester, and it's going to the hospital. I forget the hospital that's up there, but that's where my car ultimately wound up in the air. And everybody that came walked past me because they were going to get the victim, the driver, in that car. There was one person behind me who he saw everything. He saw my car. He said my car went airborne. My car never touched the rail. It actually that clicked, and I had to pay for that click. But it clicked it, but it went in the air. So my car went off the highway in the air, flipped over. The whole front fender was gone. The driver's side tire was completely removed. The right side tire was broken. If you see my car, we're going to get the pictures. I'm always telling people like this. It was like a bubble over the driver's seat. The car was destroyed. When I went to get my personal things from the car, the owner of the place my vehicle was at came out there and gave me a hug. He said, "Dude, we knew somebody died in that car. We didn't know you were the driver who was coming here." And he said, "Man, I just need to give you a hug. I don't know what it is you're doing, but whatever it is you're doing, I need to be doing it because we knew somebody died in that car." But it was a whole process of I surrendered, and I surrendered to death. That's what I surrendered to. I surrendered. I'm going to turn my car to this rail to stop this vehicle because it has to stop, and I'm not going to have any cars. I surrendered. So it's a near-death experience that I experienced, and that was my experience. So, but it all ties into this is the subconscious. So I was protected in that moment. But if I have a experience of being in another accident, because I was petrified after that, and I had to go to work the next day. I got a scratch on the back of my head still from that accident. That's all I got. But the subconscious, that's where it remains. So I'm not running around like every time I hear something like, and that's where your PTSD comes from. Because then you have to go through counseling to like get past that. And the very next day, I got a car and I'm driving. Man, listen, an accident happened to my left in another lane, and I heard it. And it just like in that moment, I was like, you know, just because it was right in the lane next to me on the driver's side, but a few cars back, and I heard the metal hitting, and I heard all of the screeching. Uh, but that remains. So if I'm in another situation where there's another accident, God forbid, that part, that pre-conscious, that subconscious, it plays it right up. Or if I'm talking to someone and someone is talking about them having a similar experience in a car accident, and I'm thinking about that subconscious. So even though you don't always know why you do something, you're triggered because of the subconscious. The subconscious contains unresolved. That's baggage. Most of that subconscious is baggage. The more you reduce the subconscious baggage, the bigger the unconscious self gets. So you understand when you look at the id, the ego, and the super ego, when you look at the conscious, the subconscious, aka pre-conscious, and the unconscious, it's all right there. It's not somewhere else. It's right there. It's all inside of you. It's all inside of you. So the more you purge yourself of unresolved, the closer you get to unconscious, the true power that resides in you. Mm-hmm. The pre-conscious is like a mental, sorry, the pre-conscious is like a mental waiting room in which thoughts remain until they succeed in attracting the eye of the conscious. Listen, I just pulled this article up, but I've been following and doing the Freudian stuff for so long. And then, the Ellis and Beck of rational emotive behavior therapy, rational emotive behavior treatment, cognitive behavior treatment ties into all of it. So you have to understand that. So I just pulled this article up this morning. I haven't even perused it. Like I usually don't. But it says until they succeed in attracting the eye of the conscious. Freud, 1924, page 6. So the attracting the eye of the consciousness, being attracted to what's in the subconscious or the pre-conscious, it's like, yo, why did I just act this way? Why did I just snap at you like that? Why? You ask yourself the question, here's the eye of the consciousness looking at the pre-conscious. You see it there. You understand it's happening. What are you going to do about it? And a lot of times people just turn away from it. You just turn away from it. Your consciousness turns away from it because I don't want to deal with that. It's too difficult to deal with. I want to stay angry. I want to stay resentful. I want them to suffer, but it's you who suffer. I want them to be reminded, but you're reminding yourself, encourage yourself. They've moved on. Life is hunky dory. You running around with your panties in. Not gender and kin. But that's what you're doing. And that's what it says right here, in which thoughts remain until they succeed in attracting the eye of the conscious. You understand? So your body, yourself, is telling you, you need to look at this. This is not good. Look, it keeps rearing its ugly head, and you keep pushing it back. Back to the article. This is what we mean in our everyday usage of the word available memory. Available memory. So that means that there's unavailable memory. Understand the mind. For example, you are presently not thinking about your mobile telephone number, but now it is mentioned, you can recall it with ease. You understand? I just got finished telling you that. There are things that trigger you to act or not. If you don't do anything, it's still an action. Understand me? So you weren't thinking about it, but now it's mentioned. You can recall it with ease. Hey, what's your number? Oh, yeah. So it's there. You just don't need it right now. Understand? Good. Emotional content. Mild emotional experiences may be in the preconscious, but sometimes traumatic and powerful negative emotions are repressed, hence not available in the preconscious. So what you have to understand is it's not available in the preconscious. There's conscious and there's preconscious. The emotions for some situations are repressed, not by a decision you make consciously, but to protect you by the unconscious. To protect you. That's why there's things that you're aware of, you think about it, you don't always think about it, but you know it's there. It's used in case you point the telephone. No. I'm not thinking about a telephone number. I'm not thinking about the telephone. But when somebody asks, what's your number? It comes right to mind. If you do the same, remember that day when you got into a fight with so and so? Yeah, I read vaguely. And then the person starts talking about it. This happened and that happened. And then you were like, nah, that's not what really happened. So when it's time for you to confront those things that you're dragging around with you, when the clinician asks you, when the counselor, the therapist asks you about the event, it's in there, in the preconscious, in the subconscious. It's in there. But when they brought it up, the way you handle it determine whether you want to continue to suppress it or you ready to talk about it. So the idea is to bring forth those things that are suppressed. Because once you bring them forth, if your willingness to bring resolve to it is present, it'll happen. This is not saying you're going to forget about it, but you have to learn to manage it and not allow it to control your life. When it sits in your pre-consciousness, when it sits in your subconsciousness, it is eating away at you. And you act in all of these different ways: anxiety, depression, aggression, denial. Yeah. Always angry and think that, oh, well, no, I'm not always angry. That's not what, no, I'm not angry. But we all looking at it like, yeah, you are. Because you're refusing to look at the subconscious, the preconscious. So ultimately, what it's saying, what like the idea of meditation is to reach your unconscious, and you want to reach your unconscious self because that's where your true power lies. That's when your innateness kicks in. Everything that you're doing right now is just because of what's above affecting your life. Uh, that's your article. In common language, subconscious is often used more generally to describe thoughts or feelings operating below the level of conscious awareness without the nuance distinction of feeling. However, within the context of Freud's model, that's a German translation, unto the whiskey, unto the whiskey, as a more specific and distinct meaning. According to Freud, 1915, the unconscious mind is the primary source of human behavior. The unconscious. Now, again, is the primary source of human behavior. Like an iceberg, the most important part of the mind is the part you cannot see. So we have people who go on to these little intellectual tyrants, that they know this, they know that, but you don't know enough about your own humanity to go beyond what's above the surface, because that's what you are. Because you don't want to see the other part. So when you have all these people who always loud talking, they always acting like they know every damn thing. These people are actually avoiding what's under the water. They're avoiding what's under the water. Because once you begin to understand what's below that water, you don't act that way. You don't act harder. You don't walk around arrogantly talking like you know this, you know that, and all this other stuff that people need to. You don't do all of that. You start searching for meaning in self of self. You start giving that to other people, and you start learning more unbeknownst to you, because you're learning about your own humanity by interacting with others and seeing how they're responding to you in a way that's like, wow, you see how people interact with you. While we are fully aware of what is happening in the conscious mind, we have no idea what information is stored in the unconscious mind. No idea of what is stored in the unconscious. But you want to call yourself conscious. Yes, yes, you need to be this, that, the other. You're supposed to be this is a black man, this, that, and the other. Not even close. Not even close. You think hating another group of people because of the color of the skin gives you superiority? You're foolish. You're foolish. You have diminished desecrated your existence to be even smaller because of that thinking. To believe that you're better than somebody else. You're not even close. You're not even close to touching the, let alone seeing under the water. That's such a small thing. That's such irrelevant thing. It's cowardly because you don't want to look at the reality of your life. All these intellectuals running around. Back to the article. The unconscious mind acts as a cauldron of primitive wishes and impulses kept at bay and mediated by the preconscious area. Listen to what I'm telling you. Listen to what I'm telling you. Read it again. The unconscious mind acts as a repository, a cauldron of primitive wishes and impulses kept at bay and mediated by the preconscious area. And I told you, the conscious, the subconscious, the unconscious. The id, want what I want when I want it now. The ego, hold up, you can't just get what you want and hurt people. And the super ego. I'm trying to tell you. Those things up here, that little, it's like an oil slick. Because they said it's just below the surface of the water. The subconsciousness, the pre-consciousness, is just below the surface of the water. It's about that thick. But you don't allow it to get diluted and thin it out because you don't address that little area. Such a small area that can take you somewhere that you can't even conceptualize where you go when you go into the unconscious self. You have no idea what you're going to. And it says it right here. A cauldron of primitive wishes and impulses kept at bay and mediated by the preconscious. That preconscious is always at odds with the id and the super ego because the id will not let it be. It's always thinking, it's always calculating, it's always got some kind of plan. It's always got some plan. And this stuff that's unresolved keeps saying, man, come on, man, I'm messing around. Keep doing stuff like that. You don't need them. Why you keep going up? And got that upheaval that keeps trying to happen. And when you have that upheaval of unconsciousness that keeps gnawing, right, it drives you nuts again. Anxiety, depression, aggression, all those things happen and you don't understand why. Because it's the battle that goes on constantly with yourself. Our feelings, motives, and decisions are powerfully influenced by our past experience and stored in the unconscious. And stored in the unconscious. Because this is again how powerful the human being is. When you get to the subconscious, those are the things that you are aware of and choose not to address. There are other things that happen that you don't recall that are in your unconscious self because that's how devastating they could be to your existence. Okay. The unconscious mind in psychoanalysis, the unconscious mind refers to that part of the psyche that contains repressed ideas and aims, as well as primitive desires and impulses that have never been allowed to enter consciousness. And it has here the iceberg and it shows the conscious mind and the small amount of mental activity we know about shows all that. And right below that, the preconscious things we would be aware of if we wanted or tried. If we wanted or tried. The unconscious, right? The things we are unaware of and cannot become aware of. So in the conscious, thoughts and perception. In the preconscious, memory, stored knowledge. In the unconscious, fear, unacceptable desires, violent motives, irrational wishes, immoral urges, selfish needs, shameful experience, traumatic experience, Did you understand that? So those things in that unconscious, that's really what you want to reach down. That's where the freedom is. Pain, not suffering. Freud viewed the unconscious mind as a vital part. It is irrational, emotional, and has no concept of reality. So its attempts to leak out must be. Freud viewed the unconscious mind as a vital part. It is irrational, emotional, and has no concept of reality. So its attempts to leak out must be inhibited. And this is the role of the ego. Yes, it's freedom there, but it seems like the subconscious is an intricate part of maintaining sanity. That's why it's there. But when you lessen those things that you know about in the subconscious or the preconsciousness, you have more wiggle room in beginning to understand the significance of that power that exists within you. Mind you, we haven't even gotten into the spirit conversation because y'all ain't ready for it. You're not ready for it. You have to get to understand this one first. Freud viewed the unconscious mind as a vital part of it. Is the rational content contained in the unconscious mind is generally deemed too anxiety provoking to be allowed. It is maintained at an unconscious level where, according to Freud, it still influences communication. The unconscious mind comprises mental processes to consciousness, but that influence judgments, feelings, or behavior, according to Wilson, 2002. Sigmund Freud emphasized the importance of the unconscious mind, and a primary assumption of Freudian theory is that the unconscious mind governs behavior to a greater degree than most people suspect. Indeed, the goal of psychoanalysis is to make the unconscious. So you understand here, the goal is for the conscious to understand and connect with the unconscious. So I would use the analogy of Adam and Eve's condition in the place they were before the fruit, that they were above the iceberg. When they went below the water, that's when the fruit kicked in. And that's when the hiding of oneself and covering oneself became evident that they had gone beneath the surface. The unconscious mind comprises mental processes inaccessible, but that influence judgment, feelings, or behavior. And once you, the unconscious contains all sorts of significant and disturbing material, which we need to keep out of awareness because they are too threatening to acknowledge. And when I hear that statement, it it pushes me in a direction of what was removed from religious books. They talk about how terrifying this information given could be. You understand? Listen, the book of Enoch, books, Enoch. This content speaks to terrifying events that took that have taken place, that are going to, yeah, that are going to take place. Understand? What they speak to here in this article is how terrifying the unconscious is. Not envy, not micro, terrifying. And how it leaks out. And if it ever broke through that layer of subconscious and flooded in, I told you would lose your mind. So there's a preparedness that must happen. When you start meditating and going toward the unconscious, because that's what you want to go to. Then again, about the connection. It says that indeed the goal of psychoanalysis is to make the unconscious conscious. The unconscious mind, as the other one, we get close. There's the Miss Lowell. We got more to cover. I'm not going to be able to get through all this because it's too significant to cover through more information is here because like you really have to understand yourself. What you think is you is not you. This great intellectual that I am is not. It's not even the tip of the iceberg. It's just the iceberg. There's more in what's above the water than we, many of us, most of us, have intellectual. What am I aware of? What do I really know? How am I really responding to the world around me? Why am I really responding in that capacity? These, these things, the core, are in the unconscious in so many cases. Why do I feel like I want to cry? Does this does this information reside in the preconsciousness, the subconscious, or in the unconscious? Because of the lack of knowledge that I have of my unconsciousness, I may never know why I cry or want to cry at times. Is it the memories that reside within the subconscious, the preconscious, or is it those things that are in the unconscious that are so devastating to me that I'll never know because it would just be too much for me to know? So when we look at where we are in terms of the understanding of self, we have to begin to look at how we're conditioning our children. Yeah. Are we conditioning our children to be the same way in terms of living above the water because it's the safe place to be? Is it really safe above the water? In many cases, in instances, it seems that way. But I think the earlier we begin to confront and challenge event and control events that happen in the life of a human being, that it decreases some of the experience that the unconsciousness contains. So that the younger they are, we protect them. We can only protect them based on the current knowledge that we have of themselves. But if all you are is the tip of an iceberg, you'll never get below the water. So you'll never understand the subconscious, the preconscious, the unconscious. You'll never understand those things. So you'll spend a lifetime. So when you have monks that go into these mountains, there is so much that they come to know of self because they're not exposed to all these other things that fill up the subconscious, the preconsciousness. That their focus is on the unconscious. That's what the focus is on. They're not up in the damn mountains thinking about all the damn failed relationships they had and jobs that they changed, the struggle with paying bills. Yeah, no, it's not even, what goes on in the mountains is far beyond. So when they come out, when those monks come out, and you see those monks walking on the street, people know the power. They know the power, but they don't know the power. But when you have an understanding of what these monks are doing and why what the monks are doing is so significant, they're not just doing this for themselves. They represent humanity, and we disregard it. You know what it would feel like to sit up in total and complete silence? You know how deafening silence can be? You ever sit in the insulated room and hear nothing, nothing, nothing? Like a bird or something like that. They're in places where it's not a whole lot of there's it's just man with himself because everything out there is part of him. There's only what five chemicals that man does not have within that are in this world according to the element that element with all these elements that they feel for. They would teach us about ourselves in school and we disregard all of it, right? But you have to understand what that feels like. Complete and total deafening silence. The only place you can go. So meditation is not just a matter of calm. Meditation, real meditation, is going inside. This is beyond just stillness and quiet. This is going into a place of terror. Again, when you hear the content that was removed from scripture, various scrolls that contain And man is taking it on himself to do things in his way because to be terrified, knowing that this is what it is. And they take it and pass it on to these people who just have this ugly existence. These people who know more than what we know. These people who may have been into, have gone to the unconscious and are aware of what they can do to control the masses. It's real deep. It gets real deep. Here we are. So we're going to stop there. Unconscious influence on behavior because the next part is the power of repression. But the last thing it says is the unconscious influence. Yeah, it starts going into the critical evaluation. And I don't want to go. But the next thing it starts going into is the process of repression and what why the human body, the human being, the human mind represses certain information. I mean, if I could just imagine for a minute, like I'm not afraid of dying. I talk to my wife all the time. She said, she wants me to live, forever. But I don't have a fear of death. But just imagine in a moment in my car, if I experience every millisecond of what was about to happen with me turning my car toward the garden and seeing everything happen, the actual airborne and going through. What if I was like fully present during all of it? How traumatic, how traumatic would that experience be for my life today? That that part that faded out actually was the repressed part. That's the part that went into my unconscious. So I was faced with a near death experience. The unconscious part of me had the whole thing. All I remember is I turned my car towards the rail. I heard the engine running. I had to be gone. Listen, for my car to take, I had a 2004 Lincoln Elvis. I'd buy another one in the heart. I just haven't found one. But I heard the engine. I wasn't. I was oblivious to what was happening in that moment. I heard the motor. At some point in time, I don't know when it came to real time. I became aware of being in the car, being in the water upside down. And I remember the water coming in, me saying, God, please don't let me go like this. But it was already over. It was already over. There was not going to be a death today. You understand? If it was going to be a death today, real time would have never showed up. It had just faded out. So I wouldn't have the experience of dying. Does that make sense? I've never died and came back. I don't know anyone who has died and came back. Only they can tell you what it's like to death. They can But I do know that I had a very, I don't know what to call it. I can only call it. And in that moment, like I said, things just faded out. It's like it just disappeared. It was like almost being in that Stephen King movie with the myth. It just like, and then came back to real time. So my unconscious has that. So each of us experience things differently, man, and that's what's in the unconscious based on what we just went over. And it's like everything that's in that unconsciousness is there for a reason. And it said it in the article. If that stuff leaked out and we became aware like that of all of these things, we wouldn't make it. We'd be in the sane asylum or dead. We would just kill ourselves. Yeah. We're just talking about the mind. We're talking about conscious, unconscious, preconscious. You so caught up in put us back into I ain't going without fight. Come on, this thing is fun. You put with intent is to do just that. To keep you from realizing how powerful you actually are. Why do you think they try so hard to do what it is that they do? Why do you think I'm not going to create something that not human life? We're faced with trials and tribulations all the time. We can overcome all of this because we control it. We control the narrative by those three components of self. We control the narrative. But it's the subconscious that keeps the gnawing going. It keeps the gnawing going because you don't want to get it's, it's not being seen by the conscious. You want to keep avoiding it. It's right there in your face. It's right there in your face. Right there in your face. But you just don't want to look at it. You want to keep blaming. You want to keep taking forward another perspective. But it's fine. You want freedom? You get it. That is bad. That is bad. title song to the album Line Up. This is my fourth album that was released last year. Yeah. Hey, listen, this album was titled Line Up because it was designed for line dance. So for all you line dance choreographers and enthusiasts, this is it. Line dance, just for that, wrong right now. It's that, no lubrication, just each one of these songs averages about 10 minutes. Yeah, about 10 minutes. So you can dance on it. Y'all want me to do a line dance for this one? I'll do it. I will go get the camera and set it up, and I will go in that living room and I will slide for it. So y'all have enough. Multiple. Yeah, yeah. I love this album, man. Um, because I had to really think about the beats, because the beats are not like a simple line dance. You got to think about the beats, you know, 40 and above. That's what so now, yeah, that's what the popularity of that. Hey, make sure you go to that little shopping bag that's down there on your page. Click on there and go ahead and buy your lady one of the dresses. So ladies, go ahead and get yourself one of the dresses. Those hoodies, the mini hoodie dresses. Yeah, $40. You won't find designs like any of those. I'm gonna have that all set up in a minute. Make sure you line up. Click on that merchandise now. Go ahead and get that merchandise. Get that merchandise. Get that merchandise. Get that merchandise. I know. I think it's always yeah, we getting close, folks. I'm going to head upstairs to the other lab and start doing some printing. Yeah, I'm show you how we print this stuff out, man. Doing some tumblers, some shirts, hand painted fashions, and hand painted joints. One of a kind designs. But yeah, I got a couple of sweatshirts designs that I haven't finished. A few more to put out. You won't get sweatshirts, zip up hoodies like ours anywhere. I didn't see what they selling, y'all. You like it? I love it. You want to look good? You want to stand out? You want to be numero uno when the party gets popping? Got to drop on some Aline for you merchandise. Got some clack fans. You won't find. Listen, our clack fans are great, great in every aspect: price, performance, and print. I'll see y'all soon. Aline for you. Make sure you get